Mine looks a
Really?
lot better than my office also.
I'm liable to throw up a few more during the deal.
That's right. Of you surfing. And Joanna, I like your partner there.
Yeah, you like my Biden head?
Hey,
That's
Joey.
right.
Yeah.
Hey, he's
I
been
don't know,
ascertained.
you all may have been so busy getting this ready that you haven't heard the last 10-minute news, and that is that they have now decided, Trump's administration has now decided to let Biden have access to the transitional material. Thank heavens.
Yeah, I suspect that had something to do with the GSA director being subpoenaed by Congress.
Do you think? Do you think?
But she
She
didn't show
says-
up.
She says
Ah.
that Trump had nothing to do with her timing, that she got no pressure from the administration. Trump, on the other hand, says, I personally have told her to whatever.
Yeah, he took credit.
Sure. What
Jeez.
a disaster that area is.
No
I
kidding.
know. I know. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Glenn Maxey.
4. Hey.
Hey, Glenn Maxey.
So we're missing 2 roasters and a moderator. But Robbie Kipnis said that she had something else, so she was going to come on sometime during the sponsor reception. And let's see.
Yeah, I just got my internet back about 2 hours ago. So,
Oh my gosh, that was timely. Now
And
there's
scary.
David, and we have Kipnis
And Joanna.
and
We're missing Crusoe.
Crusoe. Okay, Crusoe and Royce West.
Mhm.
Uh,
I really like your goatee, Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, you look very distinguished.
Took me 65 years to grow this. In other words, I started when I was age 4.
Ken, let me talk to you for a second.
all right.
I don't have 5 minutes to say after this. What are you planning on doing with that?
Not much. It depends on if Maxie gets real insulting to me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I thought Ken was going to say something about holding up a finger or something.
I probably will.
Oh dear, I may be outclassed by this whole thing. Okay, well, I'll just take notes and we'll just chat afterwards.
Yeah.
Nothing formal.
You're going to have to correct my stories. Because
Oh,
I'm telling stories as I remember them at the age of 69, which is probably not how they happened at all.
you know, I have that problem, true.
Sometimes they're better that way.
Yeah.
I know.
They're always better.
My dad was a big exaggerator, and when people pointed out to him that that wasn't the way it happened, he'd say, "Yeah, but it makes a better story this way."
Mhm.
That's true.
Yeah, I've always believed you should never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So I imagine we'll have some of that going on tonight.
That's
So,
okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
I recently, during the pandemic and the campaign, started writing my memoir, and I'm on page 350 of it.
Oh,
And almost all of y'all are in it. Just about everybody on this call is in it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no kidding.
So everybody, before I actually publish it, is going to have to read what I've written, mainly because I'm really not sure it happened like that at all.
you avoiding lawsuits, Glenn?
No, if I didn't get sued over the book about Rick Perry, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know. I love that book. I still
Yeah.
think it's a great publishable book.
You know,
Patty,
I still make about $50 a month off of that book.
do you
Oh my
really?
goodness.
Damn.
That's
You know,
amazing.
I still don't believe that. Huh? I was gonna say, I still don't believe that story about him shooting, was it a coyote on his run? I mean, who carries a gun with them on their run?
Rick Perry.
He was hunting more than coyotes on those runs often, just so you know.
Oh,
Mentioned in the book. God, I miss him after all of the last word.
isn't that the truth? Everything's relative, isn't it?
It's all relative.
By the way, Zach is about to join the sponsors for the sponsor reception, which will last until just before 7:30. And we're going to have an open discussion. So I want y'all to feel totally comfortable about making interesting comments and having conversation inducing questions.
Oh,
You don't have to. I mean,
It's a quiz. It's a pop quiz.
let me see here. Oh. Joanna, you look great. How you doing?
You do look great.
It was nice of you to call. You're a class act.
I appreciate that. I'm good. I went to East Texas for a little bit and walked around in the woods and drank a
Oh,
little
good.
bit. Not at the same time, but I'm open to that idea.
Speaking of which,
that's right. Ken may need a drink to keep him through this thing.
I have
Well, this-
tea.
This is not Ken's first rodeo, he's been roasted before.
Has DCDP done a roast before?
I don't know.
And I don't
Well, I mean-
remember.
Lake Highlands, White Rock.
Y'all don't
yeah.
Lake Highlands,
remember,
White
no.
Rock, the YDs roasted you, Ken. The party might have done it a long time ago.
Before the dog.
Before the. no,
Oh,
actually-
yeah, before the dog.
Actually, one of them was after the dog.
Oh, yeah. Well, Lake Highlands, White Rock. Yeah, because the dog figured prominently into that
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
That's right. Welcome, sponsors. We'll start our reception in just a moment as soon as we get you all in.
This is mighty nice folks coming in there.
Oh,
Mhm.
Yes.
Todd Hill Jones.
Glenn Maxey, how are you, sir?
Um,
Lovely to see you. I hope you're recovering well.
Well, after doing this for 52 years, your recovery rate is pretty quick. Been there and done
Amen.
the wins and the losses before.
So
Todd,
y'all are talking about
congratulations.
y'all are talking about recovering from the election.
Yes.
Well, when he asked that, I thought, oh my gosh, did Glenn have COVID and I didn't know it?
No, I've only had, I had during the primary, I had my toe amputated. And during the general election, I had a broken foot. So I hobbled through 2020. And
Is-
I-
Timing
true?
on your part.
Is it true that after you got your toe amputated that you said, my only regret is that I have only one toe to give to my country?
I did.
No.
Juliana?
All right. I got the message that we are good to go. My name is Carol Donovan. I am your Dallas County Democratic Party chair. We have a fun program tonight. This is what people call fundraisers because we're going to have a good time with it. This is an opportunity for our honorees to be able to join the sponsors and have a conversation before we get into the more structured roast program at 7:30. So feel free to ask questions. You can put it on your chat screen. And actually, you don't have to, because I believe you can unmute yourself. So I will just start out. I'll start out with a question which would allow our honorees to redeem themselves prior to being roasted. And that is, Harriet, of what are you the most proud in your legislative years?
Probably the health care for teachers and the bill getting some satisfaction for the gay and lesbian community.
You were a supporter before your time on that, and really you got the ball rolling for equal rights.
Well, I had a good guide in the legislature who sat very close to me and whom I went to often, named Glenn Maxey.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I bet we will. Justice Ken.
I hear that.
Over your years as a judge and a justice, of what are you most proud?
You know, I don't really know. I guess it's just obviously decisions and opinions, most of which just by themselves just chip around the edges that ultimately make a big difference. If I can think of anything that I did that made a supreme difference automatically, was in the district court, was enjoining all the evictions in West Dallas. And which led to, people not being thrown out of their homes.
Pretty big.
Well, I think the reason why you're having trouble at the beginning, at least, of trying to recall something of which you are most proud is you're probably proudest in your life of being the Dallas County Democratic Party chair.
There you go.
Oh, for certain. No, that was a very trying time, as many of you on this broadcast realize. I mean, we could have fit the whole party at times into a small kitchen.
Not really.
Not really, but you know how down and out we were for a number of years, wandering through the desert until, we did everything we could do to work it back.
It would have been a very smoke-filled kitchen.
Yes,
That would.
It was.
Yeah.
You were there.
And that was before prohibitions on smoking inside the building.
yeah.
No, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Well, Judge Moorhead, I know you're not shy. I know she's on mute, but she's either ignoring me or she can't hear me. So
I think she's frozen.
Yeah.
She's frozen.
I think she's
There she is.
No, there she is.
Judge Moorhead, do you have any questions for our esteemed honorees? I think she's frozen again.
She's still muted.
You're frozen.
There she is. Now she's not.
Are you?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, we can't hear you.
Disproportionality in the internet. It's in Oak Cliff.
Uh-oh.
It's racial. I know it is.
Why are
I'm
you?
working on it. I'm working on it, Audrey. I'm working on it.
Hey, I'm in Oak Cliff.
That's right.
Yeah, but he's in North Oak Cliff, though.
Well, Justice Peterson, I mean, since you're not going to get a chance at Judge Mulberg during the roast, do you have anything you want to say?
Nothing but praise for my friend Ken Mulberg. I've really learned a lot from him. He's been a real leader on the court. Really, I didn't know him real well till we started running together, and I just appreciate him. He's surly sometimes, but other than that,
Oh, I'm not surly.
I remember how angry he got when somebody suggested that Hasso was the coolest judge in Dallas County. Ken wasn't going to hear that. Wasn't trying to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he put a stop to that.
Pretty quick.
Yes, that's right. Now, Susan Bradley, I know your husband's getting a shot during the roast, but you and David probably have known Justice Mulberg longer than anybody.
Yes, I served on the SDC with Justice Mulberg for 6 years, something like that.
6 years.
And, I learned at his feet. He made me the committee woman I am today, or he was one of my influences, definitely. Teresa Daniel as well. But they taught me a lot, and I appreciate that every day. And he was the best man at our wedding.
All right. Well, I'm just worried. If you learned at his feet, I'm just worried about why he made you kneel before him.
It's a figure of speech, Carol. Figure of speech.
I spent 30 years on that committee. That's 15 elections representing 3 Senate districts. And it was very interesting times. I believe I went on in, David, was it 82?
82.
Yeah.
82. Yep.
Yeah.
And no one has served longer in either party.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Well,
I actually served 2 years while I was a state district judge. I had people coming to me saying you can't do that. And of course, I started when I started out on the committee, there was a district judge on there. So I just hit the books, and the legislature specifically prevented this whole litany of party offices, from the chair down to precinct chair, from not being able to serve on as those things if you were a district judge. Well, they omitted district judge.
Or they omitted the state executive committee. Yeah.
They omitted from their list the executive committee.
Yeah.
And so that was my position. And I got hounded about it for a couple of years, but that was the end of that.
Yeah, this may not mean much to anyone else but Ken, you taught me so well that when Dennis Till decided to retire from the SDC, he brought his replacement around and introduced him to me and told him, if you need anyone killed, this is the person you come to.
Well, a lot of people don't know.
This would probably be a good time for me to remind everybody that we are broadcasting.
Figuratively. He meant it figuratively.
Yes, that's right. Well,
But
and we've had a lot of comments on the chat. One of them was to Susan Bradley. You did not learn at his feet. You learned at his cowboy boots.
Okay, I'll agree with that. Yes.
That's right.
Carol, a lot of people don't know that we ought to discuss some of those times over on what I call Swill Avenue. Harriet and I were neighbors for 25 years.
That's right.
And,
that's right.
We had
across
some
the street.
Pretty raucous times over there on Swill Avenue.
We did.
Swiss Avenue.
We did. A lot of backyards.
Yes.
A lot of living rooms. A lot of Halloweens.
Yes.
That's right. Well,
and we miss you, by the way, Ken.
Well, I miss you too.
I hope y'all all see that Justice Mulberg is using an Ann Richards cup out of which he is drinking. And so,
I'm using a Barack Obama.
What is he drinking in that Ann Richards cup?
Beer.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's right. Well,
I saw you pour it.
yes, Justice Ken, you must not have crossed Harriet because you must have supported the Aldridge House and the Swiss Avenue projects, because if you hadn't, she would have campaigned against you.
That's right. I have my priorities.
Yeah, I think we were pretty much allies on everything that came down the pike.
I can't imagine being against anything that Ken was for. If I thought I was against something he was for, I would have to question my wisdom.
One of the remarkable things is that, and I remember this back, and Harriet was a great supporter when I first formally ran for the Democratic Party chair. I guess the race began in '89. David, did it?
Yeah.
And I had answered what was in the Dallas Gay Lesbian Political Caucus. I believe was the name. The questionnaire that I've supported the amendment of the Title VII Civil Rights Act to include sexual orientation. And you would not believe how many regular Democrats at the time came out and blasted me for that. Said I could never win the race. I would never be a party chair who could lead. And that's just dumbfounding to me to look back at that time. To see that.
It was a very, very different time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's when I actually met Ken. It was not that long after that, going into the 92 election. And I had just graduated high school in May of 92. And
What a baby.
I have never found out how this happened. The county party got the HD Vest building in Las Colinas to host phone banks 4 nights a week. And because it was in Irving and not all the other way on the far side of Dallas County, people in Irving actually got to take part in a Democratic campaign for once. It was incredible. And it was the last time
I remember that, Michael,
that we got to take part in a campaign in our own town. It was, and it was actually when Darlene was running for county chair, she was the one who started bringing the coordinated campaign back in full. And we started having stuff out in Irving again. And, you know, if I had not taken part in that 92 phone bank 4 nights a week, I don't know that I ever would have gotten involved in politics.
Yeah, I knew one of the guys out there who worked there.
That's how that happened. Finally found out all these years later.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, I have to just, on behalf of the people that are about to roast, we are going to sound a lot funnier if y'all get to drinking sooner. It's not an easy task on this end, so get yourself something good and get it chilled. It's okay.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's the good thing about being Democrats is, you know, we can do that. Speaking of Democrats, Gene Ball. I mean, I don't know if there's a competition between you and the Bradleys on who's known Justice Ken longer. I don't know who wins.
It's not even a contest. Gene wins that one.
I think I do.
Older than everybody.
Yeah.
No, you're not, Gene.
I look like that.
When you first met Justice Ken, was he in diapers?
No.
Well, I thought so, but that was the same attitude I had about Bradley too. You know, I was already an old fart by the time they met me.
Bradley probably was in diapers.
Yeah, well,
you weren't an old fart, Gene.
But I was reminded earlier with the comments about how many times you've been roasted, Ken, and the only one that stands out in my mind was a Garland Area Democratic Club fundraiser. Yeah. And before and I got to be one of the roasters on that. And before it was all done, he publicly fired me from precinct chair. He was a county chair at the time.
Sounds like there's some more stories behind that. Well, now, Justice Ken, I have a specific request to ask that you share some of your pre-judicial musician stories.
Well, I don't know if we have that long. Let me see if I can, if I've got a picture I can put up there of what I look like 50 years ago or.
There you
Oh
go.
my God.
Yeah.
That is Los Angeles, California, 1967.
Oh my goodness.
And if you can't tell, that's me over there on the left side with the glasses.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Like a
So-
beetle.
That album.
Ken, I've always wondered, with those thick horn rimmed glasses, I mean, were you nearsighted or farsighted? What? I mean, I've always
Nearsighted.
wondered. Oh,
Nearsighted.
yeah.
But
Hey, Ken,
I
can
know-
you tell us a
Like I
thing?
did.
It was an interesting time. I had the opportunity to play music with and meet some wonderful folks. Me and the four guys or the other three guys you see behind me in that photo, we were on Steppenwolf's first album. Did some studio work on there. We actually did some studio work for the Monkees and various people. I even did the demo with Hoyt Axton that he sold to Steppenwolf of Goddamn the Pusher Man. And it was a pretty wild time.
Hey, Ken. Hey, Ken Royce, are there any lyrics that you can share with us?
Any what?
Can you sing a little song for us?
Oh, I've given up singing a long time ago.
Come on, Ken.
Come on, Ken. Little pusher, little pusher man.
If these
How
people
about
would take,
Born to Be Wild?
that's good. Well, now, Honorable Harriet, do you play an instrument?
I do not. I took music for 7 years. I took a piano for 7 years and learned to play the first page of Claire de Lune, but now I can't even play it anymore. I was a total failure as a piano student.
Did you not turn the page?
There was no need.
Good line, Patty. Good line.
That's right. That's right. And I know that in about 2 minutes, Zach Bullard will be giving me a warning for us to be transferred to the big program. But I wanted to ask our honorees what their favorite DCDP story was.
Oh, you should have prepped me on that one.
Oh dear.
Well, let's see.
Well, I can't tell some of those. Carol.
No, you can't. No.
Oh gosh, I think I think
Bradley was involved in those. He can't tell. I'll say.
Yes.
I wasn't.
No. Harriet was never involved.
No, Miss Perfect.
Not in the stories we can't tell.
I think the one of the funniest ones though was one time I saw Don Mason was on here. We were doing a recount. We were doing a recount for John Wiley Price, and we'd opened up the mail-in ballots or something, or I forget how it was, and Don and I were representing John, and that was back in the 80s, probably early 80s somewhere. And when we opened the ballot can to pull out the votes, the first one on the top was Don Mason's ballot in the ballot envelope.
And was the second one also Don Mason's?
Yeah, that just kind of brought a stop to it right there.
That's right. That's right.
Sidney Powell was our opposing counsel.
Well, I think she's available again. I understand how to work.
I just talked to Hugo Chavez last night about all that.
He says he doesn't remember her. That's right. Well, and Zach, are you on board?
I am. Is everybody ready to get the show on the road?
Let me get a beer.
Yeah. You,
Right, that's
I
okay, yes.
noticed Colleen Martin's already drinking wine now.
We all need a drink.
Let's have a toast to Harriet and Justice Malberg. Here's a toast to you guys. You guys are wonderful. Cheers.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Cheers, Ken and Harriet.
And this one, I'm drinking
for bravery.
I'm drinking this because I learned Harriet Earhart taught me how to drink this stuff in her side yard in Swiss Avenue. It's White Claw Hard Seltzer Mango.
Oh my!
It took me off of the Miller Lite for a while, Ken.
Yeah. Well, she only drinks it. I got
great gin.
I just switched to Dale's Pale Ale. So.
Well, Zach, for those of us less technical than you, tell us what happens.
All right. So what we're going to do over the next couple of minutes, Colleen, Will, and I are going to move everyone back into our virtual auditorium where you were a few minutes ago. So that way you can watch in peace. And we're going to get the show on the road. We're going to kick off in a couple of minutes. Carol will introduce the senator and we'll have some fun for the evening.
Okay. So we just wait and let you do the work.
To see all of you all, by the way. Pretty special group.
Everyone.
Yep.
Let me just unmute for 2 seconds. Hi, this is Sandra Jackson. Hey, Ken. Hey, Harry.
Hey, Sandra.
Hey, Royce.
Hey.
I want to shout at everybody. Hey, Bill. Hey, guys. Best wishes. Happy Thanksgiving in advance.
Oh,
you too.
All right.
Same to you, Sandra.
Thanks, Ken.
Or Your Honor.
I learned it from you, my brother.
Bye, everybody. Miss you.
It's all you guys. Hey, Hal.
Hi, Judge.
Good to see you, my buddy.
Good to see you with a little light in your hand. But that Dills is hard stuff.
Yeah.
Candace, how are you doing this evening? You doing okay?
I'm doing great. You need to come see our new office.
Hey, Candace, I didn't see her.
Yeah, Candace is here.
She's muted.
She's on mute, though.
Oh, he's moving us over.
Boy, it's weird seeing people disappear off the screen.
Really?
Okay. We've got a couple more folks to add, but we've got enough to get the show on the road. Carol, if you want to get us kicked off and introduce Senator West, we'll be able to keep moving.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Carol Donovan, your Dallas County Democratic Party Chair. It is my privilege to introduce tonight's moderator, Senator Royce West. Now, because of his years of experience as a statesman and his consistent loyalty and support of the Dallas County Democratic Party, we call him the Dean of Dallas. In 1992, Senator West succeeded a certain female senator in the Texas Senate named Eddie Bernice Johnson, whom we call Congresswoman for short. She was the first Black woman elected from Dallas County. For the past 28 years, Senator West has represented Senate District 23. His current term continues through 2022, and only he knows what's next. We are lucky to have him in Dallas County, and he is lucky to be married for the past 32 years to Carol West. Senator? Uh-oh, you need to unmute. You need to unmute. There. Oh, you're still on mute. Zach, can you help him out?
There he is.
Am I good?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all missed everything I just said about Harriet and also Ken. It's great.
That was the good part, right?
That was a good part. That was a good part. Yeah, it's great being here with you this evening. You know, the Monday before Thanksgiving. And so to all of my Democratic friends, I want to say Thanksgiving on behalf of Carol and myself to each and every one of you. Have a safe holiday. Now, let's have some fun. The Honorable Harriet Earhart. Harriet is an American educator and stateswoman. From 1995 to 2002, she represented House District 107 as a state representative. She was doing such a good job that her Republican colleagues made sure to redistrict her out of the district, Abbott, by only a few blocks. Harriet was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She got to Texas as soon as she could. She made up for not being here earlier by getting her higher education right here in Texas. Did you know that Harriet has a master's degree from SMU and a doctorate of education from the University of Houston? So while you are insulting her tonight, remember to call her Dr. Earhart. And all of us know about the outstanding functions that she hosts at her home for those persons running for office, and just to make certain we have a gathering of Democrats across Dallas County. Now, before becoming a stateswoman, Dr. Earhart worked as a classroom teacher. However, as is her tendency, she began to take charge, and Harriet knows how to take charge. She became the school principal and then worked with the Dallas Independent School District at the administration building. Later, while teaching at SMU, one of her students was Laura Bush.
That's right.
And we know that Laura ended up becoming First Lady. I'll leave it at that. Needless to say, the education of Dallas must have taught her a lot, and being a leader here in Dallas also gained her notoriety, not only as a stateswoman, but more importantly, as an educator. Did you know that she has a library named after her? Yes, she was honored by the library at Zan Wesley Holmes Middle School being named after her. Let's give Harriet a hand. La 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 la.
Thank
Let's
you.
give her a hand.
Thank
a hand.
you.
Just,
Thank
let's just give her give her a hand. Okay. And you know, we can go on and on about Ken Moberg. You know, let me just say this. Harriet, when she had legislation, she would make certain that she involved me over in the Senate to carry her water. Ken Moberg, what can I say about you, my friend? We go way back, just like Harriet and I do. I recall when you were the chair of the Dallas County Democratic Party. And let me say this, Ken Moberg in great part helped me to become a state senator. And I'll never, ever will forget that, Ken. Ken was elected to the 5th District Court of Appeals on November the 6th, 2018. For the previous 10 years, while he was outside smoking cigarettes, he was a judge for the 95th Judicial District Court of the state of Texas. For 4 of those years, he served as a local administrative district judge of Dallas County with the responsibilities for the county's 39 district courts. He was previously the presiding judge of the civil district courts of the county for 3 terms. 3 terms. His colleagues elected him to do that job. What I heard though, Ken, was that when they asked who wanted to do it and asked whoever wanted to do it to step forward, everyone else stepped back and you decided to do it for those 3 terms. If you were taking the district bench in January 2009, Justice Malberg, a graduate of SUM School of Law, was a trial lawyer for more than 33 years. And was he a trial lawyer? He took on the most difficult cases that any litigator would take on. And in many instances was successful. He was named the Jurist of the Year for 2017 by the Texas ABOTA, the statewide parent organization of the Texas chapter of the American Board of Trial Advocates. In 2011, he received the Trial Judge of the Year award from the Dallas chapter of the American Board of Trial Advocates, and he was named to the Dallas Bar Association Board of Directors for 2012 by appointment by the association's president. And so not only is he a trial lawyer, not only is he a judge, but he's well thought of by his colleagues here in the local bar and across this country. He was the 2016 recipient of the Charles Murray Outstanding Jurist Award, presented annually by the Tarrant County Trial Lawyers Association. But tonight, my friends, it all goes downhill from there for both the Honorable Harriet Earhart and also the Justice Ken Malberg. Carol, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you. Royce West, as our moderator, will be introducing our roasters, but I wanted to brag on all of you. Thanks to the participants and also the sponsors, we raised over $25,000 on this roast alone, and I really appreciate the work of the staff for doing that. Here are our sponsors. If you'll take a look, they have several levels. And I want to take this opportunity to brag that Joanna Katanak is coming on board the staff as Director of Development. And she was kind enough to go ahead and help us with this program in advance. But what really astounds me with this $25,000 plus take that we've made on this fundraiser is how much people will pay just to get a chance to insult their elected officials. So we should learn something from that. Also, I want to thank everyone that provided juicy nuggets of material for the roasters. We have some outstanding roasters, and our moderator will go ahead and introduce the roasters one by one so that they can deliver the goods on our honorees.
We're going to start off with a precinct chair that frankly needs no introduction. And so I want to introduce to some and present to others, Patty Fink, one of the greatest precinct chairs in Dallas County. Patty?
Yay!
Well, thank you, Senator. I'm not sure about that. I would even beg to differ about that. But it's an honor to be here this evening and to roast my favorite person in the world, Harriet Earhart. And I know I haven't run this stuff by you, but I don't think you need to worry. At least maybe not. Well, I've known Harriet Earhart in many different capacities for about 25 years. First as an activist in LGBTQ politics, also in Democratic politics, and as a personal friend. And as a co-host of Lambda Weekly, which is the oldest, longest running LGBTQ radio show in the country on KNON. I've co-hosted that now for 2 decades. I've had the honor and privilege of being on the air with Harriet, who's been a guest on our show too many times to count. on one of those occasions years ago, we had Harriet play our game, Who Wants to Be a Lesbian? And just before we asked her the first question, she leaned into the mic and said, "I love you, Jack." When it was done, she won. Harriet was an honorary lesbian. Although many of us in the community think that Harriet had always been a lesbian. After all, decades before, after an especially brutal winter freeze in Dallas, Harriet could be found under an array of pipes on her back with her own trusty toolbox, fixing the plumbing in an old Dallas gay hotspot so the boys could warm up to each other again instead of the frozen pipes. But we really suspect that Harriet is secretly a gay man. Think about it. If you've ever attended a fundraiser or reception at Harriet's enormous Swiss Avenue home, especially during the holidays, then you know that when you walked in, you'd be hit with the full festive glory and splendor of every possible decoration and flourish, filling every possible available space in Harriet's home. Every room, every staircase, every windowsill, and of course, even the bathrooms. For Harriet, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Whether a fundraiser for DGLA or hosting U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, events at Harriet's home were lavish, very particular, and fabulously fastidious. Her guests' every possible need was anticipated, a massive spread of food and drink in every room, and a packed house of friends, old and new. So, see what I mean? Speaking of gay bars, to the Wayback Machine, everyone. In the mid-70s, while all the bars along Cedar Springs stocked fresh buttermilk for visits by the amazing Dallas civil rights legend and icon, Juanita Craft, we're afraid Harriet could have lost her gay card because back in those days, Harriet was somewhat of a regular, but she never had a drink and didn't spin on the dance floor. Back then in the 70s and into the 80s, it was the practice of the Dallas Police Department to record all of the license plate numbers of the cars parked around the bars, and then regularly publish the names of the car owners in the Dallas Times-Herald. And both Harriet and Juanita Craft would come to the bars and get their names in the paper as well, in full solidarity with the Dallas LGBTQ community. And Harriet took that unwavering advocacy for equal rights from SMU to the DISD Board of Trustees and all the way to the Texas House of Representatives, where she proudly and persistently stood up and spoke out for marginalized Texans from 1995 to 2002. But you may remember, in 2001, the Texas GOP-controlled Texas legislature, hiss with me now, this is where we hiss, drew wildly gerrymandered redistricting maps to benefit themselves, but also to target the most progressive Democrats in the Texas House. Because of her great work as a notorious liberal in the Texas House, the Republicans drew Harriet out of her beloved district by a mere 4 houses. But then, several years ago, Harriet moved out during some repairs to her big, beautiful Swiss Avenue home, parking herself 4 houses away on the same street. So really, I feel absolutely certain that if she just simply opted to do her home repairs earlier, Harriet would still be in the Texas House today, liberaling away in Austin for all of us. Thank you, Harriet.
Thank you.
All right.
Patty, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's real clear that you guys have had a long, long friendship, and we appreciate your presentation tonight. Now, Harriet's going to get a chance to respond to all of that, okay? So just hold tight. Our next roasting is going to be Professor Joanna Katanak. Joanne?
Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Like I said, these jokes are going to sound really funny if you keep drinking a little bit more this evening, because it's not easy to roast someone that you admire so much and are slightly afraid of on a really honest level there too. So I'm so honored to be able to speak with you here tonight and welcome all of our guests, the honorables, the elected, the dishonorables, and Glenn Maxey for being here this evening to have a good laugh with us. I've also invited my good friend, President-elect Joe Biden, to be with us here as we celebrate some amazing Democrats who've I've gotten to know over the last few years. Now, I will admit, most of you have a few years on me in terms of knowing good stories. So I had to do a lot of Wikipedia work, but it turns out, Harriet, you exceed Wikipedia's timeline a little bit. So there's some things that I had to really dig for to find a good story to be able to really honor you as best that we could, but also to add a little interesting facts about you that I think are really important that people know. The most important thing that people know is that you are almost as famous as your house is famous. So I will say that. Where there are tombstones that line the way during Halloween time, just so you know, these were not props. These were actually the bodies of the Republicans that she buried. So, and she always left folks with a good registration reminder. And I will tell you this as well, Senator West, her home was once a hippie enclave. That's what it was called. And anybody who's been to Harriet's home knows that it's still a hippie enclave. It really is. You bought it for $30,000 and the lot next to it. And I will tell you right now, if that offer is still on the table, I will take anything for $30,000 in the Swiss Avenue neighborhood. But you bought it and you repaired it and you made it into this beautiful home. That, as Patty mentioned, in 2011 was the scene for what became the Nancy Pelosi speech here in Dallas County. In 2011, Speaker Pelosi, who you were a friend with, you had once given a ride to after a Stonewall Democrats convention. She missed her plane and Harriet showed up with a car and said, "You want to hop in, Nancy?" Just because that's what Harriet Earhart would do. So Nancy Pelosi gives this speech, and I found the speech, so I wanted to read to you, Democrats, exactly what she said. And excuse me, I'm going to get my best Nancy on, so let me get my collar right and my earring set. Texas is the future. When Texas turns, and it will be for the betterment of the people. This is our year. Now, this was said in 2011. And 2012 and 2013 and every year since then, because Nancy still is hoping for us and so are we. But here's the funny part. It's no surprise then that Harriet, when you decided to have your Sale-a-Palooza on Swiss Avenue, you put everything in your house that could possibly be sold up for grabs. And so she put price tags on everything, right? So I went through and guess what I found? On the soapbox that Nancy Pelosi stood on, because she's a shorter woman and you gave her the honor of making sure that she had risen above the crowd to deliver her speech, you priced that box at $15, at the bargain rate of $15 to get it out the door so that money could be raised for charity. Now, I hate to think about this, Harriet, that anything I or Ken Moberg or Patty or Glenn sat on or stood on would end up in your garage sale, but I'm more afraid it might end up for free on Bulk Week on Swiss Avenue. All right. Actually, I think we'd like to see all right happen in the governor's office if you're getting my drift on this. Harriet, some other things in my research, because I am a professor and I was a reporter for years, and part of that is researching people. And here's what I found that you said one time, that I hate that you said this, but you are right as always. You said, don't run to get elected. Now, I did not know that I would take that so literally myself, but you meant that because you understood something, that if you are running for yourself and not for the betterment of your community, and what kind of a leader are you? And I take that to heart. And I think that that's so important that we remember that. You and I have a kinship and a love-hate relationship with House District 108 in the west of 75 Brigade sometimes. We love words and progress and very big jewelry, as you see that I have on today, and I see that you have on right now. The bigger the jewelry, the better the girl. That's my motto. Leading Harriet will tell you, when I decided, let me tell you something. This is what I want to bring you back to, because I haven't been in the Dallas County Democratic Party as many of you senior members have been within the party. And I respect that and honor that. Let me honor that with you right now. So you will understand that when I decided that I wanted to run for a state house in 108, it's the middle of the night. I'm talking with a few people and I'm like, I think I want to run for the state house. This is almost 11 o'clock at night. They say, get in the car, and they drive me to Swift Avenue. And they said, there's someone you need to speak to. And I kid you not, this is the middle of the night and we're knocking on a Swiss Avenue home. That is not that's a formidable thing to do for anybody, even for those of us that are in East Dallas. And opens the door comes this sweet older woman who sits me down in a room full of dainty things. There's just things everywhere, all over this house that look very breakable and look very dainty. And I'm trying to be very, very proper here. And she starts grilling me on why I want to run for the state house, Senator West. And she goes over, her years and time. And in my head, I'm just turning, who are you? This is really late. What is going on? She then hands me a file folder that I believe I still have. And it was a 5-page memo on how to run for office that she had typed out herself. That included, and I kid you not, the very first page said you should have started working 5 years ago. That is exactly what Dr. Earhart is. And since then, I have always thought of those moments inside of that room with the dainty things and Dr. Earhart looking at me. But it's pretty hard to roast somebody who's spent a lifetime as the lady with the pitchfork, who's put many a man and policy and 1 or 2 elephants over a Spitfire to cook for all the right reasons. When they fired you from SMU to avoid giving you tenure, the day before they were supposed to do it, when they targeted your family because of your outspoken support of gay rights, when it was a first for most women, not to mention a working mother of 5 or too progressive, you went ahead and did it anyway. When they drew you out of a district because they could, and hint sometimes that you're past your prime, you never once let the bastards burn you out, even if the coals got cold. That might be a good title for a memoir. I don't know which one I'm going to read first, Dr. Earhart or you, Glenn. Whichever one of these looks pretty good to me. But we've got a lot of things to do in Texas. So I'd like to think that we all have a little bit of Harriet and a little bit of Swiss Avenue in us. I mean, I know some of you have 1 or 2 shingles missing and the plumbing looks like it needs a little bit of work here. That's very true for a lot of us these days. But you have said this, and I'll end with this because I want to honor you as much as I want to roast you, Miss Earhart, Dr. Earhart, my good friend. You have said more than once, isn't the Democratic Party great? And no matter how much kicking and squawking I've seen, there's room in the tent for all of us. You have said that over and over and over again. There is room in the tent and the flaps are open, but I will tell you, 1 or 2 of these folks have some pretty sharp elbows and some shifty eyes. And I'm looking straight at you, Patty Fink, because sometimes I'm looking at you. So I hope that you lift your glasses and honor someone who has made us laugh and has held us to account, who is a shero and a wife and the queen of Swiss Avenue, Dr. Harriet Earhart.
Here, here, here.
Here.
Woohoo!
Professor Kadanak, great job. And I now want to present, no one needs it. Everyone knows who Glenn Maxey is. If you hadn't gotten in an argument with Glenn Maxey, then you really don't count. And I can imagine that there's been many a conversation between Earhart and Glenn Maxey, the Honorable Glenn Maxey. Glenn?
Thank you, Senator West. Harriet and I go way back. I first met her in 1984 when we were both working in a ill-fated campaign of Lloyd Doggett running for the United States Senate. I was the office manager in Austin and Harriet was our Dallas coordinator. And she was one of the very best. There are literally thousands of people in this country who made James Carville cuss like the Cajun he is. But only Harriet could make him cry when she wouldn't do whatever stupid stuff he wanted her to do. Harriet is also such a friend of the LGBT community. She was an early leader to protect gay teachers in Dallas Independent School District when the superintendent was on a mission to fire them. She was hanging out in gay bars long before I was. You know, Harriet was doing gay activism before Glenn Maxey was outed. To the first person I came out to was James Carville in that election. She was doing gay activism long before Glenn Maxey was. You know, my favorite stories about Harriet are actually stories that I had nothing to do with, just stories that she told me over the years. One of my favorite stories of Harriet's going above and beyond service to the Queens of Dallas was when a fire destroyed the back room of the bar on Cedar Springs where the Dallas drag queens stored their gowns and tiaras. There was about to be a major AIDS fundraiser, and because of the fire, the drag queens were without their gowns. So Harriet tells me that she knew that the show must go on, and so according to Harriet, she went up and down Swiss Avenue to her matronly neighbors, asking them all to donate ball gowns. Luckily for the Queens, Harriet had many plus-size Republicans who lived on Swiss Avenue. Probably had no idea that that dress was going to look better on a man than it ever had. She was always the trooper. As Patty said, when that gay bathhouse closed up, she was there with the blowtorch. To make sure that the boys could still have fun. I once got invited to Harriet's lake house. That was a real experience. She had jet skis, she had a boat, she had every kind of floating device and water thing you could play with. She had more toys than a lesbian's bedroom. I mean, speaking of bedroom, there were a bunch of us there, and she said, not to worry, that the lake house slept several dozen. I think it was in the dozens. There was a room I remember that had beds that hung from the wall like, you know, those beds in prison cells. Okay. And she was really proud of those sleeping arrangements. Every bed had a matching rubber mattress. Harriet, ever the recycler, had bought all the mattresses from that gay bathhouse when it closed down.
That's right.
Now, Harriet has been really generous in her time, her mentorship of all of us, and her activism. Who else would rent a whole office building for community groups and folks to use to organize, to teach, to support each other?
Amen.
And oh, that house on Swiss Avenue. When I became a lobbyist for the Lesbian Gay Rights Lobby of Texas, and I had to hang out in Dallas on occasion, there was always a bedroom on Swiss Avenue with my name on it. There was always a key under the mat. Even if she wasn't home, you could go and you could crash at Harriet's. It was an amazing place. I spent hours when she wasn't there poking around, looking at all the garbage and chit chats and things on every shelf, as others have talked about. You know, it was, when I first visited there, the things that struck me was a blind ferret, a three-legged dog, and an irascible husband named Jack. And those were the saner things at Harriet's. In 2004, during the Howard Dean campaign, I called and I said, Harriet, I'm about to fly a plane load of people to Iowa to knock on doors for Howard Dean, and we're going to fly out of DFW. I need to find a place for about 25 of us from Austin to crash. And she said, oh, just come to my house. You know, I can sleep at least 25. And that was true. She slept 25 people and not a single person was on the floor. When she and Jack decided to move down the street, she told me she had a yard sale. Some of y'all have already referenced it, and that it brought in $25,000. Well, you know, that's a lot of crap. But when they decided to move back to that house and I went to visit her yet again, you couldn't tell that she'd gotten rid of anything. Every shelf and cranny stuffed with stuff. Harriet has been so admired by gay folks back then that when I came onto the scene and was in the legislature, and I was having a hard time with some legislators, Senator, some people who in Dallas who didn't want to exactly step out front on the fight against AIDS or do the right thing on gay rights. All it took was for Bill Nelson or Terry Thibodeau or somebody just to say, Harriet Earhart's going to run against you. And that got their asses back in line almost immediately. I loved it when she actually got to the House. I'd bask in the glow of being the first openly queer representative. And then along came Harriet, who was so pro-gay that I was able to focus on real policy shifts. Harriet was all up there to wave those rainbow flags and let me do some real work. I had been the sideshow for the liberals for a couple sessions. It was easy for me to always crow about being the most liberal member of the House. And then there was Harriet. I was immediately put into real competition. I don't think we ever cast a vote differently. So it was always a tie on the scorecards at the end of the session by all the do-gooder groups. You know, the two people with the perfect liberal scores. But Harriet, I still tell you, the tie goes to the real gay guy. She was always a trooper, and that continues today. I called her up this spring and said that I'd formed the House Alumni Fund, where donations from 4 Democratic members were going to go help the House by paying for the voter registration program and vote by mail in all of the targeted districts. I had set out a goal to raise $25,000 from some of my colleagues. So I asked Harriet for $1,000. She didn't know she could do that. But as she would always do, she immediately sent out a fundraising letter and raised almost $5,000 from her list, more than any other single former member. We ended up raising $50,000 with Harriet Earhart raising a good 10% of it. I'm going to conclude by saying there's never been a more conscientious member of the House for the forces of equality, for fairness, and for good. She was loud and determined proponent for public education and access to housing, and she didn't truck lightly any of their right-wing stupidity. Her grandmotherly demeanor, her, church lady continence would turn into the fierceness of a pissed-off mother hen when somebody messed with her chicks. There was no better advocate or friend in the House. I truly love her, and so do Texans everywhere. Harriet, you may have retired from the House, but you and I know better than most, you can never retire from fighting the good fight and mentoring those who followed you. I love you. Congratulations on this honor.
Hear, 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 hear.
Hear, hear.
Thank you very much.
And that was great. That was great. You know, when we think of Harriet Earhart, everything that's been said is a lie. That was supposed to be funny, y'all. No, but the fact is that everything that's been said is obviously well suited for our dear friend and mentor. Let's now move on to Ken Moberg. And we have some great honorees here tonight to talk about Ken. Let's start off with David Bradley. David, take it away.
Thank you, Senator. I've got to say that having to follow Glenn gives me sort of the same sensation that the guy who succeeded Babe Ruth in right field for the Yankees must have felt, but that's the way the chips fell tonight, so we'll deal with it.
Excuse me, David?
Yes, sir.
Where are you?
I'm in my bedroom.
Oh, that's what we never.
Yes, yes. What you see behind me is the North Sea off the coast, the northeast coast of Scotland.
Okay, very good.
It's
All
a
right.
photograph that Susan took when we were there a few years ago.
Great.
But yeah, I could have come up with a better story. But anyway, as some of us were discussing earlier, this is not the first time that Ken has been honored by an event of this nature, and it's not the first time that I've participated. I don't remember, but I'd say this is probably the third, fourth, fifth time in the last 25 or 30 years that I've participated in one of these. And one of the nice things about spreading it out like that is a lot of us are old enough that nobody remembers what I said before, so I can recycle material freely without any guilt whatsoever. When Carol contacted me last week to ask me to do this, she said that a group of them had been sitting around trying to decide who had known Ken the longest. And they decided it was me. And I said, well, I'm happy to help, but there are people who have known Ken longer than I have. People he grew up with, people he went to school with. And I said, if that's the objective you're trying to fulfill, let me see what I can do. And knowing Ken as well as I do, and for as long as I have, I know a lot of the people who have been in his life. So I contacted several of his, shall we say, contemporaries last week to see if we could invite any of them to help us tonight. But unfortunately, in these days of COVID, we were not able to make the necessary arrangements for any of his contemporaries to join the Zoom session from their nursing homes. So you're stuck with me. But I have known Ken for quite a while. I don't have a specific memory of meeting him, but I do recall the first conversation we had of any substance, which was at the 1986 state convention in Austin, which was my first state convention. Our congressman, Ken's and my congressman at the time, John Bryant, hosted a reception at Schultz's Beer Garden in Austin after we recessed on Friday night. And I don't really remember what Ken and I talked about, but I do recall that the entire time we were talking that he was scarfing down free beer and free food, which I'm sure will come as a shock to many of you. So like I say, I've known Ken for about 35 years. So I've known him through a few different physical incarnations. Ken was clean shaven when I met him. In about 1987, he grew a beard. And then I believe it was 1991 on one of his south of the border trips, he shaved the beard, kept the mustache, which he still has. And I have been trying to get him to regrow the beard ever since, because having known him in all of those incarnations, it struck me that covering up more of his face was really better for all of us, but he hasn't taken the hint so far. Speaking of hair, some of you who have known Ken for a while have noticed that the hue of his hair has changed over the years. Here is what very few of you know. That's hair dye. Ken's actually dark-headed. Long time ago, he decided that if he gradually went gray, it would give him this patina of wisdom or respectability or, whatever. That didn't work. But I will give him this. He's been doing it so long, he's gotten really good at it. I have not seen the hair dye streak down his cheeks in a long time. Now, I've had the opportunity to have Ken and I have a number of different relationships, but I've had an opportunity to have one relationship that most of you haven't, in terms of the employer-employee relationship. I was the bookkeeper for the county party for the last 3.5 years that Ken was chair. And some of you know that one of Ken's areas of specialization when he was a practicing lawyer was labor and employment. Now, this was kind of a double-edged sword, because Ken knows exactly where all of the lines are that employers can't cross. That does not, however, mean that they can't lean into them to some degree. But, you know, it all worked out. It was, you know, it was fine. I survived. Some of my former colleagues had different experiences, but the gag really prohibits me from saying anything more about that. So we'll have to go on. One thing some of you don't know about Ken, he does not like to go places alone. Ken likes to have a wingman. And so over the decades, he has dragged me. I have accompanied him to a myriad of events over the years. And one in particular that I remember, this was a long time ago. I know it was before he was on the bench. And I don't remember exactly who sponsored the event, but I remember it was in this huge ballroom. I don't remember where anymore. And the place was packed to the gills with all these high-powered lawyers and judges. And I mean, some people who literally were legends, at least in their own minds. And at one point, Ken leaned over to me. He said, "Bradley, how many great legal minds do you think there are in this room?" And I thought about it for a minute. And I said, "Well, Kenneth, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's a safe bet that it's probably at least one less than you think." He didn't talk to me the rest of the night. And then the weirdest thing, I had to walk home that night, even though I was the one who had driven us there. And then it gets weirder. The next morning, Ken calls me. My car is in front of his house. I never did figure out how that went down. Never figured out how that happened. Since we are, as the senator mentioned earlier, in this week of Thanksgiving, I wanted to close by making sure that all of you were aware of something that we should all be thankful to Ken for. This didn't get a lot of coverage at the time, so you may have missed it. As we were emerging from the Great Recession, President Obama publicly thanked Ken for almost single-handedly propping up the stock price of Miller Brewing and Philip Morris. And I know that President-elect Biden is counting on Ken to do his bit once again to help us out of our current crisis. Love you, brother. Thanks, everybody, for helping us out tonight.
Great job, baby. Great job. Great job. So you still hadn't figured out how that car got in front of Ken's house?
No idea. No idea. I've been trying to figure that out for decades.
Okay. We now have another honoree. Robbie, it's your turn.
Where's Robbie?
Okay, so Robbie is on a unstable internet connection. So she sent us some remarks, and give me just a second here. I'm going to get them queued up for everyone to see. She sends her well wishes and thanks for everyone's help this year on a great election.
Hello, everybody. It's Robbie Partita Kipnis here. Thank you, Senator Royce West, for introducing me. And thank you, Dallas County Democratic Party, for having me. And the theme of my roast for Justice Ken Moberg is the man, the only man that I know that. Ken, you're the only man that I know that I would interrupt my vacation here in beautiful Broken Bow, Oklahoma, to actually roast. As many of you may or may not know, I've had the privilege of sitting alongside Justice Ken Moberg, who I will refer to as Judge Moberg, since he will always be Judge Moberg to me, for the past 2 years. I've known Ken about 12 years and 10 years in private practice, and the 2 years we've been sitting alongside each other on the Fifth Court of Appeals. Now, Ken is the only man that I know, the only white man that I know, that knows the difference between a good and a bad pozole. Actually, he's the only white man that I know that knows what pozole is. Ken is also the only man that I know who does an online bank or doesn't at least check his account online. Case in fact, actual true story. Ken freaked out about 1.5 years ago, thinking he was overdrawn when he wasn't, but couldn't reach the girl he knew at the bank to check his actual balance. He ruined our whole lunch worrying about that. Justice Carlisle was there as a witness. We tried to convince him to online bank, but he told us he didn't trust that sort of thing. So I'm pretty sure Ken's still calling his girl at the bank to get his balance. Ken is the only man that I know that thinks that Royal Blue is a good, not even a real royal blue, like a blue, is a good choice of wall paint color in his office at the Court of Appeals. I guess that was his way of marking his territory. Ken is also the only man that I know and the only judge that I know to refer to me as girl from the bench. True story. I had a broken foot and a broken wrist, the foot from a tennis accident and the wrist from a skiing accident. And let's just say I don't do either one of those sports anymore. But anyway, I rolled up into his courtroom on a scooter, at least 15 minutes late for a hearing, and it was a packed courtroom. And he says, "Girl, what the hell happened to you?" Probably about 5, 6 years ago. So I have to roll on up, and he makes me roll up to the bench to tell him what happened in front of the entire courtroom. But the point being is, he refers to me as girl and says, "What the hell happened to you?" He's the only man and the only judge that I know who has ever done that. Ken is the only man that I know that worries more than a mother does. He's also the only man that any of us know, and it's a true fact, and my other 6 colleagues can attest that he's the only man that we know to survive the pandemic with a supply of only Marlboro Lights and Miller Lights, an occasional treat of an IPA beer. Oh, and a couple of cans of Wolf Chili. But in all seriousness, I can't continue to roast Ken because he's my guy and he's my touchstone on the bench. So I will say this, Ken, I thank you for everything that you've done for all of us and for leading the way and being our fearless leader during the campaign of 2018. With your leadership and your generosity, we were able to have the historic victory and change the landscape of the Fifth Court of Appeals because of you. None of this could have been done without your help and your dedication and your constant encouragement and worrying and leadership during that campaign. I would also like to tell you, Ken, thank you very much for teaching me more about Texas civil procedure than I'd ever learned in my 20 years of practice. And thank you for teaching me at Pete's Dancing Marlin every Friday afternoon and any other afternoon we could cut out. So here's to Ken, my hill country German blood brother. I'm wishing you that you always stay strong and healthy in mind and body and keep fighting the good fight. We love you, Ken. Cheers.
Yes. All right.
Oh, thank you.
Now we have the Honorable John Frenchie Crusoe that will provide the next roast of our friend Justice Ken Moberg. John?
Well, great. Thank you, everyone. I was asked to do this, and first I was asked to roast Harriet. And I was like, wait a minute, that's like, you know, my older sister, my mom, whatever. I mean, Harriet's like, shit, she's perfect. You know, I can't go there. I can't do that. And so they said, well, we have one other person. I said, well, is it Royce? I said, I got a lot of shit on him. And they're like, no. He's got some other role in this deal. So I was like, well, who? They said Moberg. I said, I got even more stuff on him. Yeah, I got Moberg. So anyway, it's a real pleasure to participate in this. And Harriet, congratulations. You know, we all love you, appreciate you, everything you've done. I was so interested in listening to Glenn's recitation of facts about you and your life and the legislature and the things that you've stood for and stood up for everyone, for all of us over the years. And you know, you're a true beacon of hope and light for all of us. And, you know, I wish I could say the same about Ken, but he is kind of a beacon of light. And it's when he flicks his lighter to light up his cigarette. Beacon of light, so to speak. You know, everybody knows he's a smoker, and I don't mean smokes turkeys and smokes meat, But yes, he's addicted to nicotine. And on many occasions, he and David Bradley have tried to enlist me to join in this club of theirs. And well, it just about got me. So anyway, so, you know, Moberg is a restless guy. Every 5 or 10 years, you know, he seeks kind of an upgrade in his life or his career. You know, of course, when it comes to Linda, there are no upgrades. I mean, that's top shelf, A1, got to stick with it. And so no upgrades there. But his first few attempts, you know, some people have said were abject failures. You know, not many of us would consider going from a rock star, so to speak, as we've seen his picture over there on the far left and those glasses. I mean, come on, you can tell that's a long time ago. You know, we wouldn't consider going from that to an attorney as necessarily a step up. But then he went down to the level of Dallas County Democratic Party chair. And of course, he moved up to the status of a trial judge. So we had to call him Your Honor. Well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't call him Your Honor. I'll call him Honorable. And he couldn't figure that out. I said, no, that's HONORABBLE. I said, because you're more of a rabble rouser than you are a damn judge. And you've always been a rabble rouser. So I just call you Your Honor Rabble. But then he upgraded to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. So now he's just Justice Moberg. But I called him that and he said, no, I'm going to do the Richard Pryor thing. I said, what's that? He says, I'm just us Moberg. I'm about the people. So I said, you know, that's probably what they ought to call you, just us Moberg, because that certainly fits you. So a lot of people don't know that he got his start in politics in Young Democrats. And there he met fellow conspirators, Tom Blackwell and Mike Workman. You know, Mike was a classmate at the University of North Texas, actually NTSU, right, Ken? NTSU. And before it had a Dallas campus. And Mike recalls that Ken was an editor of the newspaper, the North Texas Daily. It's there that Ken earned his chops as the great communicator. So in preparation for this roast, we had an in-depth interview with classmate Mike Walkman, who claimed he still possesses a shocking photo of Justice Ken. Mike really wanted to share the photo with you all. However, in the end, he elected not to do so because Justice Ken has one or more of Mike that are equally revealing, he says. So I guess it must have worked out a quid pro quo, so to speak. According to our research, Justice or Just Us Ken was quite the party animal in his formative years. I'm not sure that we can say he's not now, talking about making meetings to discuss civil procedure in bars. But anyway, Justice Ken graduated from UNT with high honors, I would. And rumor has it that the designation of high didn't have anything to do with his grades. After all, this was the 1970s. So while attending SMU Law School, he served as a managing editor of the SMU Law Review. I mean, can you imagine that? I went to SMU. I can't imagine this guy being a managing editor of the SMU Law Review with all those stiff shirts and, you know, a penny loafer wearing knuckleheads over there. But hey, somehow he wiggled in. And he was a member of the barristers, and this proves that he can both write and talk at the same time. Of course, we've all known that. Justice Ken follows the law. It's been known to bend the rules a little bit for a good cause, of course. And when he was DCDP chair, he got wind that President Bill Clinton was going to speak at Tyler Junior College. Ken, who at the time was driving a big old black Suburban. Oh, and by the way, let me digress a little bit. Way back when I became a judge and I had a Harley motorcycle, I was riding on I-35. I was way south of Dallas, and I was in the left lane, and I saw a Cadillac coming up on my rear end. I'm not going to say what I really want to say. My rear end. And that damn thing was moving, and I could see it about a half a mile away. I thought, you know, it's best for me to get over. And so I get over, and this Cadillac comes up and pulls up and goes past me. And then I see it hit the brakes and come back, get a little even. Guess who it is? Just Us Moberg. And he waves and grins at me. And I thought, you know, goddamn, this guy would have hit me. I had to move over. He was headed to Austin. I was headed to Austin. And we were down there working on legislation. But anyway, so he was driving his big old Suburban, loaded up a vehicle with Democrats. And he, Linda, and Arlene Beasley, and Terry Hodge took off to East Texas. Sure enough, they caught up with the president's motorcade. So Just Us Ken slipped in at the end of it, just kind of like he does, kind of fits in. And to his amazement, when they reached the secure destination, he was waved on in campus along with the president's motorcade. Evidently, the Secret Service personnel, while driving black Suburbans, we never found out what happened after that. He was the first interloper before Obama and that couple came into the White House. Ken and his crowd were getting in on President Clinton. So as we interview folks again for this roast, everyone mentioned how many lives that Just Us Moberg has been able to fit within one lifespan. I mean, think about it. For those of us who have known him for a long time, all of the significant things he's done and roles he's played in not just this community, but actually in our lives. So because he's accomplished so much, there's a story going around that when he goes to the pearly gates, he'll be protesting that he's been plucked from life too soon. In response, the old St. Peter will look through his records and reply, based on our records, Just Us Moberg, you must be at least 138 years old. So Ken, we congratulate you. We love you. We respect you. We love everyone on this phone call. And we, as a group, we operate to make this community better. And no one has been a better leader for us than you have. And so Ken, congratulations. Harriet, we love you. Congratulations. Senator West, we love you. Congratulations. Joanna, congratulations. Carol, thank you for all the good work you do. We're very appreciative of everything this party does for us and this community. And we continue to work to straighten out, what has gone wrong in the past and get us on a path forward that's truly just and full of equality. So to everyone here, thank you. Thank you, Ken. Tell Linda I love her too. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah.
We have had, John, great presentation also. Let me say this, Harriet and Ken, before we ask you guys to kind of give us a little rebuttal, I'll put it that way. Both of you have served as the wind beneath our wings. Let me say that again. You have served as the wind beneath the Democratic Party. Most of these elected officials on here, some that are not on there, wings. And we really do appreciate that. And so with that, I'm going to ask Harriet to give her rebuttal and followed by Just Us, John, Just Us Moberg. Harriet.
Well, first of all, thank you. I've had a very good time. I think we have very clever roasters. Patty, I appreciate being almost as famous as my house. And sure enough, we did spend $30,000 to buy this house. The lot next door cost $3,000 more to give us $3,000 to tear this house down. It was in the saving of Swiss Avenue that I became involved in politics and realized how very important elected people were. So you reminded me of that, and it was good to be introduced to how important politics is. And I have spent the remainder of my 51 years since we moved into this house, trying to teach other people how important politics is. That government, not only does it belong to us, but it's our responsibility. It's not our right and our privilege only. It is our responsibility to handle our government as if it belonged to us, because it does. I did repair the plumbing at the baths, which was one of Dallas's famous watering holes for gay men back in the early 80s. There was a terrible storm and all of their plumbing froze. Now, Jack gave me my own acetylene torch for Mother's Day. So I took my torch and I went and refixed the copper plumbing so that they could get back to having their entertainment in the baths. And I probably am one of the few women who's ever been all through a gay bathhouse. That, of course, was before AIDS. That promptly closed all Dallas's baths. But Jack and I did enjoy Dallas's gay bars. We were dancing at the Villa Fontaine one night. The Villa Fontaine was Dallas's oldest gay bar. And we got tapped on the shoulder by a young man. And to Jack's great surprise, it was not me with whom he wanted to dance. And our experience in the gay bars was, I found out more about what was happening in DISD than any other board member, because that's where I met principals and teachers and coaches and administrators. And so I came to the board meetings armed with a great deal of inside information that I got from going to Dallas's gay bars. Ken and I hosted 4,000 children on Halloween. His house and my house were the proud destinations of these children, along with other homes up and down Swiss Avenue. And I've missed that, and I've missed a lot of things with this pandemic. One of the things I've missed most is using this house to give entertainment and raise money for our candidates. One of the last events that we had here was for Crusoe. Terry Hodge set up a party for 250 people in our backyard for hot dogs and hamburgers.
Oh, God.
And we had the greatest monsoon rain that you can even imagine that happened a few hours before that event. But we gave it anyway. I had a pump to pump the water out of the backyard so that we could just put pieces of wood over the river that was formed in what used to be walkways. But we had a great time, and people came out because people come for Crusoe. So they came anyway. It didn't matter that there was so much water. I'm proud to be a Democrat. I haven't always been one. I was raised a Republican, and it wasn't until I was on the school board and compared the difference in the philosophy of the two parties that I realized that I really wasn't a Republican. I really was a Democrat. I really am liberal, and I'm proud to be. And Jack, my partner in that forever, was very supportive of that. But I have friends who are Republicans. And I remember when Maxie and I served in the legislature, it was nothing like it is now. I don't even know whether the bills that I was voting on were sponsored by Republicans or Democrats. It wasn't important. We made decisions not on the basis of the party of the person who presented that bill. And I want us to go back to that time. I long for us to go back to that time. I know that you cannot govern as we've been governing for the last few years. I am positive that you cannot govern when you insist that you must always have everything your way. One of the nicest people I know is Laura Bush, and we can go to a time when we can work together on the things on which we agree and fight without fighting one another on the things with which we disagree. And I long for that time. And I would want all of us here tonight to look for ways that we can find how we can mend our broken country so that we can once again be the great country we are. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I very much appreciate being a part of it. I've had a good time.
All right, Harriet.
Justice Moberg.
Well, Senator, I want to thank you for being so kind to me this evening. A lot of people probably don't know that when I ran for party chair in 1989, this is how far back it goes, you were my campaign treasurer.
That's right.
And Harriet, of course, and I lived across the street from each other for 25 years. And man, I miss those times. I miss those times very much. And to those of you who said very nice things about me, I want to thank you. I do want to point out that my old friend Glenn Maxey is indeed my old friend. I mean, Glenn is so old that his social security number is 5. And David, you just proved to me again that your mother did drop you on your head when you were a kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but I want to thank you all that said those nice things about me. Robbie, I want to thank you very much. Cruzo, you know, I don't know what to say about you. Sometimes you get real caustic with me. I think I'd put it this way. If you were on fire and I had water, I'd drink it. But I'm not sure which one of you is probably more likely to put beans in your chili or pineapple on your pizza, but it's one of you, I can guarantee you. You know, and for those of you who said ugly things about me, I want you to remember that I was a Catholic schoolboy growing up, and the nuns taught me a whole bunch of stuff. And here's one of the things they taught me. This is for you.
Oh, kid, that's terrible.
So whatever you think, I've appreciated tonight. I love this party. It's been a hard pandemic. Linda just got home from Baylor, where she works with so many of those patients. So I want you to be careful. Do everything you can to protect yourselves and your family during this pandemic, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you all very much.
Ken, thank you very much. And Harry, thank you very much. Now I'll turn it back over to our party chair.
Thank you. Well, I think our victims, our honorees should all get a lot of credit for being such good sports, possibly with the exception of Mr. Moberg. But and I want to remind him that this is being broadcast, Facebook streaming. But
that's all right with me.
We mentioned a lot about the work of both of our honorees on a lot of issues, but especially LGBT issues. And I wanted to recognize that one of the participants tonight is the new president of Stonewall Democrats, Todd Hill Jones, and we appreciate him joining us tonight. I want to thank Senator West for moderating. I want to thank all of our roasters and our sponsors. And we had over 70 participants. If you enjoyed the show tonight, we're taking suggestions on the next roaster. Just send me an email or give me a call. Thank you so much. And thank you to the sponsors whose names are on the board right now. If you'll look over that. And my email, if you have suggestions about the next victims, is Carol@DallasDemocrats.org. carol@dallasdemocrats.org. Thank you so much and happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it,
Thank
guys.
you.
We'll exit now. Thank you.
Good to